Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight on the late one in review, where we look at the top news, or we create the top news. And for a great day, today is the 6th of the 5th. We're now Thursday in the week, and we're heading towards um, April. We're finishing April. We're in May now. June, July, August, September. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're just going to go live on YouTube and also on Instagram. So I want to thank you so much, and I would like and appreciate that you can share the video as well. Just click the link and just share it. And for those on Instagram as well, I can see Sherika is there. Somehow she's going to be in two places tonight, but that's fantastic. Please remember to like and share the video. Today is Super Thursday. Super Thursday means to say it's the election. Election is on tonight. Who is going to be the next mayor of London? That's going to be the big question, which we'll know at 10 p.m. tonight, well, for the exit polls. And then, of course, you know, we got the Windrush saga, which is still going on. There have been some cases which the news has been reported on. We cannot leave and sort of lose focus on that. How can Ace be deported to Jamaica when he was born in the UK? That's been a recurring theme a lot of time. We keep hearing that so much over and over again. People born in the UK but being deported to Jamaica. We'll touch on that sometime later. And of course, I know Ace personally. And is COVID becoming a byword? I say that not to belittle COVID, but we are seeing something whereby the figures are dipped in the UK. Dr. Burton, who is on, will sort of touch base on that. And also very interesting that the UK economy is growing at the fastest rate in more than 70 years, which is set to be. So it's going to be a very interesting day. And also, I'll bring up something later in the day, which is very interesting. Miss Teen Caribbean UK, we are here. Also, Ladia C, we are here. Without further ado, let me just bring in the dream team and we just get it going. Magic. How was that? Hey, how are you guys? Good evening.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sherika.
Good evening.
David. Dr.
Good
Burton.
evening.
He's frozen.
How are you all?
He always does it to the one. He sits like he's frozen, and then I'm thinking that he's frozen. He's not frozen.
That's it.
Yeah.
I got my invitation on.
Okay. Well, listen. Welcome to Sherika Alicia Miller, who has graced us tonight. Fortunately, she's not busy, so she said she want to talk about politics. Sherika, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on your show, as usual. So
Well, Sherika, you got to tell people about who you are. You know, you can't just come on and just say hi. You know.
Okay, so I'm Sherika. I'm a registered nurse by Baseline. I own a pageant brand, Miss Teen Caribbean UK. So I run that. So I'm a nurse entrepreneur who loves to vote, loves politics. I'm a frustrated economist. So that's pretty much who I am, wrapped up in a, and I own a puppy. So that's it. That's
Oh yeah, we all be able to. That puppy went to the polls today, ladies and gentlemen. As a matter of fact, today was a dog's day. I got some images of dogs which are at the polls today. David, how are you? How's the week so far?
I'm good. Week's good. Week's rolling by. As you said, the year's rolling by really quickly.
I've seen a
but
delay
yeah,
with David there somehow.
What's that?
Yeah. Okay, no, we weren't. Your mouth was moving. I know you're a person that
I'm a
has
ventriloquist
power.
as well. That's it. So I'm going to introduce myself as well. I'm David. I'm a doctor. I'm a ventriloquist, and I also like to mime.
I believe you. Let me see Anthony and see if that happens. Anthony, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks, Silbon. Good to be on the show again, as always. I don't think I'll do an introduction, but for those who don't know who I am, I'm Anthony Francis. I'm a business leadership coach, entrepreneur, author, and also somebody who happens to be retired.
And most importantly, with Anthony, we always hear "Think It, Plan It, Do It Now," which is the author of that beautiful book. And it is simple as what it says. If you think it, you plan it, you automatically do it. But the most important thing is now. Now is the key word. It doesn't make sense to go around in circles, procrastinating and say, I'm going to think of. Was that a good one, David? Anthony, did I do it well this time?
Yeah, well, I mean, thank you for the endorsement as always. And you're right. I mean, a lot of people do spend a lot of time procrastinating. They would like to do things. They say they're going to do it. They put a bit of a plan in place, but sadly, they never actually execute it. And they look back many months or years in the future, and they think, why didn't I do that? And it's because they didn't do it now.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for that, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming on, and those who are here from the UK, USA, Jamaica, or wherever. Election today, Super Thursday. Today is going to be the reckoning, whereby we're going to see if the government is getting any plus, any ticky mark, if there's going to be a new mayor of London. Did you guys vote?
Okay, thanks very much, Selborn. So I'll own up and actually say this is for the first time I chose to not vote, and the reason for that is simply that I didn't find anything in the candidates that I felt sufficient enough to vote for. So this is the first time. It's my preference. I looked at what they were offering, and I exercised my right on this occasion to actually not vote, even though I know that it's important to do so. But I just could not support any of the candidates because they didn't actually seem to be endorsing any of the sort of values and the issues that I thought were important to London at this stage.
That's very interesting. And Sherika.
So,
as a matter of fact, there's a disclaimer. You don't have to answer. I'm just putting it out there. It's up to you.
Well, I voted because there was 20 candidates standing in the election. I've done no research on the candidates that I voted for, but I felt that it was just necessary to just utilize my right to vote. And that sounds really like it's almost like wasting a vote. I'm not voting, but voting helps your credit score, guys. So go out and vote, or at least be on the electoral roll. So that's my top tip for the night. But yeah, I did go out and vote. I voted in all the sections. They had a section for the mayor of London and a few other things like.
And why is that dog there?
My puppy was there because I wanted to show that she also came along. She was in the station with me, voted, witnessed me voting. So we definitely voted today. She had a nice little walk to the poll station.
Okay, so there we are, the dogs took part in the action, and Dr. Burton, I know maybe because of work or whatever, but I know you already.
Well, we didn't have the same kind of councillor votes or mayoral votes that you guys will have had where I'm currently residing. So our vote was principally for fire chief and police commissioner.
Okay.
And
I seem to have lost David for a moment.
I can hear him, David. We can hear you. We can hear you. But that's not you. That's not you. One of the dogs.
There's no audio, Selborn.
No, I don't know what's going on there, David. Yeah, please log back. Yeah, log back because that's not you. It's not like a filter like the judge and the lawyer the other day with the cat. But while David is on his way back, it's interesting, Anthony, the point that you made, which is very crucial, that voting is not just about exercising the vote in the polling booth. You can also exercise it by not voting. Is that so? I mean, somebody.
Well, yeah, but I think on this occasion, I mean, you know, everybody's got an opportunity to vote, and it's a hard-won opportunity that we have this right. And I think you have to vote based on if you think the candidates who are standing are going to stand up for the issues that you feel are important. So for me, looking at the candidates that are available in the London mayoral elections, I simply felt that of the two main candidates, they weren't addressing the sort of things I thought were important for London and for for my neighbourhood and my area. And obviously the other candidates who are on the ballot, a lot of them were sort of there as a sort of I wouldn't call it a joke, but they were sort of alternatives, but not really mainstream. So on this particular occasion, I chose to exercise my right not to vote, purely on the basis that I didn't think any of the candidates met my criteria.
Yes, and Sherika, what's your take on that point there? You believe that person need to vote irrespective, or that's a part of exercising one's franchise?
That is a very good question. Do you just vote for the sake of voting, or do you actually vote logically and think about who you're going to vote? It really depends on the status of the economy and the status of what's going on in the country. So for me, I felt it was necessary to just add to the numbers as well, even though I didn't do much. I'm actually going through the booklet now, and I went through it earlier on today. But just to cut a long story short, I think it is best to go out and vote, whether you, because no one is 100% who you represent and how you're gonna feel and what you stand for. Nobody
Yeah.
ever is. So you're basically saying by voting for a person, this person stands 100% for what I believe in, and nobody ever does. And people can change along the line
No.
of after you voted for them. Are
Mhm.
you guys hearing me?
We can
Yeah.
hear it now. Yes.
Yeah, so people can change who they are for based from what you voted for initially. So I guess saying that, oh, I want them to be 100% what I represent is not really the best thing, because nobody ever is 100%. You just have to take it with a pinch of salt, one or two things that you feel you relate to,
Yeah.
and just see how you throw your hat in the ring and see how it goes. That's just my view on the matter.
No, and it's a very good view. It's a very good point that you make, Sherika. And I think on this occasion, because I've seen what the current mayor of London was offering based on his 4 years performance, and based on what the leading candidate had to offer, that was why I chose not to. I wasn't looking for 100% agreement. I was looking for agreement overall in a way that I thought was going to be good for London, that I could honestly put my vote towards. But on this occasion, I just couldn't I couldn't rationalize either of them.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I normally do the postal vote. So I normally post like a few days beforehand. And because Anthony, as you know, that I've stood a couple of times in elections, at least 3 times. So therefore, having the postal vote has always been beneficial for me, in a sense. In regards to voting, like in this area in Lewisham, because of lots of these LTN and lots of these congestion charge. I mean, one hasn't driven in London for a while because the mayor is proposing to increase all of these things. Sean Bailey is actually like saying he's going to take it out. But sometimes I think about this, Anthony, and I think and said to myself, really and truly, do you think the mayor could really do all of that by himself without central government having a part to play in it? As a logistical guy, do you think the mayor has that power that much to make all of these?
Well, I think we've already seen what the mayor can and can't do with regards to the fiasco on the trains, where he's had to go back into the government and actually ask the government for a bailout, because he did not actually manage the budget that he had appropriately. Where I think he suspended fare increases, he gave free rides to under 16s or whatever it was, and as a consequence, he's found himself in a situation where he's had to go cap in hand to the government to say, please bail me out. And on top of that, Selborne, you've only got to see what his mismanagement has been of Hammersmith Bridge, which has now been closed for the last 2 or 3 years. So, it's easy to, as we know with politicians, it's easy to talk a good game, but a lot harder to walk the walk.
Yeah, that's interesting there. I got David coming back on the frame. Hey, David, you're back on the track, Jack?
Yeah, I'm back, I think. Sorry about that.
A bit slimmer. Yeah, sorry about that. I think you got a glitch there. So we were talking about the voting, and you're talking about the police commissioners down that side there.
Yeah, so exactly. So I'd like to not to vote just because I'm quite happy with the status quo, to be quite honest with you. And I guess I could have reinforced that by voting for the police commissioner and fire chief. But I felt that some of the issues that would really relate to me would be more so with relation to council votes, which were not sort of eligible this time round. And we had no mayoral elections either. So, I was a little bit more relaxed and reserved in my voting habits than I would have normally been. So I elect not to vote this time round.
Well, anyway, at 10 o'clock, we'll get the figures. We'll get a sort of exit vote, because it is not just about the mayoral election, as we know. This election is going to be a signal as to the approval of the government thus far, isn't it? That's one of the analysis is going to be of it.
Yeah, most definitely, and I'm sure that both Sherika and David will have their comments on this one. But I think certainly with Labour, with having a new leader, they're looking for a bounce with Keir Starmer, and obviously with Boris, we all know what we get with Boris. We get a personality, we get a character, and sometimes I do feel that people vote on personalities rather than on the substance of what the individual is actually saying. Because if you were to look at the things in detail, certainly there's been a lot of criticism leveled against the Conservatives and Boris in particular. But when you look at the performance of Keir, Sir Keir Starmer, he doesn't seem to have really taken advantage of some of those issues to the point where people in the street would be able to easily recognise and sort of say, "Oh yes, I totally agreed with Keir's comment." And I think he perhaps as a result of that maybe hasn't done the Labour Party any favours.
Well, that's because with the personalities, because I feel I have a personality, you can engage your stakeholders better. So even if you have a great manifesto or great ideas and great initiatives, if you can't engage your stakeholders, then there's no point in you having a dull personality with a great, great plan, great thing, and no, you can't engage anybody. You can't get them to relate to you. You can't get them to be on par. So personality is at least 80% of what you really need in order to get things done. So people who have got personality and are being criticized for only having a personality, I think that the reason they keep winning is because they can engage the stakeholders, they can engage people, they can relate to other people, and then can get the 20% of the job done. So personality is not to be frowned upon, people. It's a very important attribute to have. And the people with personalities are going to continue to win, and we're going to continue to criticize it. But that's because you've never been in a position to engage some of the lower socioeconomic people, some of the higher ones. So you need a personality to bounce around. So sorry to interject on that, but because I work in a pageant where I have to, encourage personalities, I think is not a negative but a positive for sure.
I was about to say that because you have a lot to do with personalities and the ladies around you. So it's not about it's a diversity of everything that plays a part in the process, isn't it? Not just the intellectual side. The person could be very intellectual and very competent, but they're boring and put everybody to sleep.
Yeah, you can't engage anybody. You can't engage your high stakeholders, your low, your intermediate. You can't engage anyone, and that is very important.
Okay. Well, unless anybody else want to say anything, we hear the results later.
The last thing I was going to just say is I think the timing matters as well. So for now, I don't know that the Labour leader needs that kind of bounce, because there's no way that Labour are going to be going for a general election anytime soon. So even building up from now, I just don't think that's you're going to get the momentum to challenge just in the moment. And it doesn't look like Boris is going anywhere. He's not going to be resigning, even with the allegations that were out there in the past few weeks. So I just don't think the timing's right for Labour to try and get a bounce. And we'll just see what happens when the general election rolls around.
Yeah,
I think I'll just add on that what Sherika is saying. I do concur what you said, Sherika, and I think the perfect example of that was Donald Trump.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I can tell you where the personality lies today, and the personality lies right here. That is one at the polling station there. And that is one there, and then there is two. Those are the other guys there at the polling station. They're having a field day. And number three, there we are. That has been the competition, and that has been what we call the personalities in this election, because it's all over the papers, ladies and gentlemen. I want to move on, and while David is here, the COVID factor. I use this sort of saying the COVID is a byword in a sense, not to belittle it, because India is having the great fallout because people are just dying, and sometimes they are saying now the figures that they have could be more higher than that. But in the UK, there is a great breakthrough, wouldn't we say, David?
I think so. There's definitely been a breakthrough. We're definitely moving in the right direction. And the numbers of people who have unfortunately lost their life through the condition of having acquired COVID is low. We're in the single figures now, which is fantastic. I wouldn't say it's a byword. So I was looking at the definition of a byword.
Yeah.
I would say it's more synonymous with bad things, but I wouldn't say that it's a byword. I mean, obviously, I would say that a certain manufacturer of beer has probably picked up a bad press because of it, and now we call it COVID-19 rather than the coronavirus, which is great. So I think that's how I would leave it in that sense, in terms of how synonymous it is with something that is bad. But we are seeing the light now, I think, excusing the pun. But we are, and I think that we are moving in the right direction in this particular part of the world. But we cannot forget other parts of the world that again have been left behind.
Yes,
And will encounter problems going down the line. I was asked this week in terms of why it is that India is going through what it's going through. Well, at any point in time, you're going to have one particular region of the world that is going to fall foul more so than other regions in the world, because coronavirus, COVID-19, is not going away anytime soon. So it will, I'll say, always be here. It will always be here. We've heard recently that the flu virus is now claiming lives, unfortunately. So the flu virus didn't go away. It was just lurking in the background because coronavirus was doing its thing. So yes, it's fantastic. It's positive that we're moving in the right direction, but let's not forget about other places as well now. That's, I guess, now the time to reflect on how it's going to affect India, how it's going to affect Africa. And what has been really enlightening just in the past few hours is the discussion about the vaccine and making it kind of an open vaccine for all. Because if you can do that, you can then make sure that people around the world are vaccinated through reducing the patents that have historically slowed down the movement of drugs worldwide. Now, I'm not postulating that we should remove every patent from every single drug that's out there, but quite obviously, one byword that I would say is unprecedented times. These are unprecedented times.
yes.
And so for that reason, I think we've got to really move forward and allow the world to open up, the world to sort of shake hands and everybody sort of to mingle in the ways that they were doing previously. And the way to achieve that, one of the ways is by having vaccinations for all. So I would postulate that would be my way of sort of approach to this, is opening that up for other countries, because they desperately need to sort of get their people up to a great level of health, but they also need to open their economies, and they also need to get people mingling again. So that's how I view things in terms of a coronavirus update this week.
And Sherika, what do you think? Because at the G7, is it the G7? I think India was invited. I think they are now in isolation because a few of their delegations have COVID. Do you think that's an open door? I mean, the UK is still a bit very wary at the same time. Sherika, what's your take on that?
My take on this. Well, India represents the poorest and the richest all in the same. So India has the wealthiest economy, and it also hosts the poorest economy with some of the worst slums ever. So to think it was not going to be, to think that a pandemic was not going to hit India is a little bit, unrealistic, considering they're saying it's a global thing.
Yes.
With David saying that it should be offered to everybody, the attitudes and the views of people, even in this country, taking the vaccine is I think it will be shared worldwide. So you can offer it freely, but what are the response of people who you're offering it to? Do they actually want to take it? So I don't think the problem is just offering it. I think it's also the attitudes of people. Do they want to receive it? Do they know enough about COVID in order to feel that it's necessary for them to have it and all of that good stuff? So my views on India, should they those are really my views on India, to be fair. I mean, I haven't been following up. I never followed these things up because I have a strict policy on mental health, in that I don't absorb unnecessary information. So I know what I need to know, and I kind of carry on with my day to day. But that's just my limited view. I don't have much about it. I don't know. What are you guys?
Well, I'm going to touch on to Anthony and then come back to David on the issue about mental health as well. Next week is mental health. Anthony, what's your take? Of course, we sort of always just give a sort of quick overview and thought process on COVID so far within the UK. They're planning on opening up the economy as well. UK is planning on 70%, a great, fantastic economy drive. COVID is, that's why I said byword, is moving in the back burn, yes.
Yeah, well, I think as David has already touched on, I mean, the figures are very positive, and and each week they have continuously been positive. And I think it's a credit both to the government and also the uptake of the individuals themselves who have read the information. They're happy to take the vaccine, and as we've seen with the number of people today, I think, which really surprised me. I think we're up to something in the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Burton, but I think we're up to about 14 million people who are on their second jabs, which is simply outstanding effort by people coming forward and actually, being happy to receive the vaccine. So I think once that confidence continues, I think more and more people will feel that they're able now to go back out and do the things that they used to do, albeit in with an element of caution. But I think the good thing for the economy, which you were touching on, Selborne, is that clearly I think there will be a substantial bounce back, which is what the Bank of England governor said today. He actually expected a higher bounce back than what he had originally predicted. Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably going to be a result of people who have that pent up need to now go out and spend. The only people who may find a little bit of discomfort is the people who rely on the footfall of traffic going into the shopping malls and business areas. They might find it slightly difficult, and I think people are now having to pivot and do different ways of actually servicing their customers.
And of course, that is what was on the news today, whereby one shop owner was actually saying we just have to be very innovative, because the UK, of course, is poised to move forward. David, I want to just go back to you, because I was listening and I never knew this. And, thank you for your service, man. Just like what I said, people in the army, and Sherika as well, because you guys are on the front line. I never knew that doctors were committing so much suicide.
Well, I wouldn't say it's in their droves, but obviously we're in a high-pressure environment and a high-pressure job. And particularly of late, we're being asked to do more and more within the area and field of speciality that we practice and the patients that we're asked to serve. So, there's a high level of stress that will be in amongst clinicians, not just doctors, but nurses, healthcare givers, people who are in the hospital services day and night. It's a hard, stressful job. We all signed up for that, no doubt. But the circumstances that have occurred in the past 18 months, I don't think anybody would have really seen. So we've really got to think about people who are in positions like clinicians at this particular point in time, because there needs to be the affordment of practices to help with the stresses and anxieties that we all have. So one of the great things that has occurred is that through the NHS, for example, apps that help with sort of your mental well-being have been free for a period of time to try and help with that. I won't name the names of the apps, but there are apps that you can see that have been made free to people in the NHS. And there's been a lot of help in that regard as well. But I would say that now is the time. Now that we're through the second peak, so to speak, and we're now in a period of time where things are going to be picking up in the NHS. Work's still going to be going on. People still obviously are going to be getting unwell and ill. But there has to be a time to reflect. There has to be a time for clinicians, nurses, etc. Need to be able to give that time to have a break from it all, and have the support of friends and family there as well. And I think there has to be that recognition. And I think there is that recognition across the board that the job that we do has been stressful in the past 18 months or so. So yes, but people do unfortunately take their lives. We are in a position which means that we are under undue stress. And I would say that if you are a friend or family of somebody who works in the health service and you can see them going through something, then make sure you have a word with them. Okay, ask them if they're okay. Ask them if they, what's been going on at work, because the ability just to talk about things, talk through things, can be a remedy in itself. And I think that's what I'd say. I will, on another note, just touch on one point, which is the affordment of vaccines to sort of India and such. I think the uptake is not what is driving the problem of the vaccination program in India. The big issue is that the actual ability to have the vaccines on ground. So they don't have the vaccines in order to give it and distribute it to the population. So I don't think that people are shunning away the vaccine. I'm not here to tell people what they should do, but what I am saying is that at least giving people the ability to take the vaccine is the way forward. And I would rather have supply far outweigh the demand than the other way around.
Yes. Sherika, you're in a high pressure environment in the NHS as well. What's your take in regards to the mental health factor? As you rightly say, you steer yourself away from certain things to protect yourself.
Yeah, no, I agree with David, and thank you so much for, just clarifying that last point that you made. And it really is stressful, and a lot of people are finding different ways to cope. And on top of the work demands, people have family pressures as well, because when everybody else was told to stay home and be inside, we were told to work more, and you were never given the opportunity to just be at home. I said this to you, Silburn, like outside of this conversation, that it must be refreshing to be at home for 2 weeks and not feel guilty about it. Whereas if I wanted to take 2 to 3 weeks off, everybody constantly asks me, are you not working today? Are you not working today? Or how comes you're not working today? And I just needed 2 weeks off just to sleep like everybody else, or just to go to the park and stay in the whatever everyone was doing. I wanted to do it without having the guilt of being a healthcare frontline worker. So my specialty is in intensive care and A&E, so I'm definitely on the front line. So yeah, I agree with David. You really do need to check up on people and see how they're doing, and bear in mind that when everybody else was told to stay in and work from home and be around more, most healthcare professionals, including the janitors and the cleaners and everyone, porters, security, were told to go into work all the time.
Right, yes.
So it's
So you're on
really
the front line period. While everything was going through, you guys had to be just going through. Yeah.
absolutely. And all that was happening whilst you weren't getting any pay rises. You were putting your family at risk, and there was a lot of pressure. So your families who might not be working might rely on you for something because they know that you're working. It's just happening a lot for people.
And
So
Anthony, sorry, Sherika, please.
that's definitely my final point. So, what David said, and just to add on to that, family pressures, work pressures really do add to the stress of a lot of healthcare professionals, including doctors and nurses. So
Anthony, at the same time, there's a project management aspect of this, isn't it? For a big corporation, a big NHS, what's your take on the whole aspect, managing? Because you do some work in these areas, in those are different way, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it is a challenge, both in terms of for the as Sherika has alluded to, is a challenge for the staff, and also it's a challenge for the society at large when we're actually expecting, if we're ill, we expect to go to hospital and to see these frontline workers. Otherwise, where are we going to get the help from? So in terms of the logistics and the management, it's a very fine balancing act that hospital managers and directors have to do. But ultimately, as Sherika said, she didn't have the luxury of being able to work from home based on the fact that she's an intensive care A&E specialist. So you can't do that from a Zoom meeting. You can't do that from your front room or whatever it is. You've got to actually be out there on the front line, and it is a challenge. I suppose the only thing from a management perspective that I think would have been nice, and I think Nicola Sturgeon did do it. She did give a £500 bonus to all the frontline workers, I believe, in Scotland, as well as also she's given I think it's correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's a 4% or pay increase for nurses, as opposed to the 1% that's been given in England. So I think there's some of the things that could at least make the work slightly more appealing, that at least they're getting rewarded for it, although it is a very stressful job, which David has alluded to as well, which does require people to be sensitive towards them, and also for us to recognize and again appreciate what the frontline workers do for us, which is one of the reasons why last year I started that petition to get key workers and the NHS a national holiday recognised every year, and I had over 100,000 people sign that petition. But sadly, probably due to other priorities and other topics coming into the media or into the government, it hasn't gone any further.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we keep monitoring that, and I believe next week is mental health week. So we'll keep a spotlight on that. As for myself, guys, as you know, I do a walk and talk every morning, and I think it is good when people get outside, get away from the friends. Sherika, you and I talk a lot during the course of the time when we're having lockdown, and we say, "Are we on lockdown?" We weren't on lockdown. I was going to court every day, even though it's sitting on the sofa still and the computer. But still, there's a mental health factor which is very strong. I want to ask persons on Instagram, Karine, Miss Paula London, Legislator Milton, Nicholas, LC, Simone Gregs. Thank you guys for coming on. It's not on Facebook, on YouTube as well. Thank you so much. I'd like to hear your views as well as to the whole COVID and what's your take on the election as well. Did you vote? Who did you vote for? You don't have to say that. Moving on quickly, guys. There's another pressuring thing which is happening around, and it's the Windrush. Windrush is back again in the news for the wrong reasons, not for the good reasons of saying they're making a breakthrough, but it's the fact that persons are out there and they're still having challenges. One guy, his teeth, he had to pull out his teeth, and he's still going through. And he was in the army. Another person is spending like £20,000 trying to get themselves sorted out. Another guy named Ace Rule is poised to be deported to Jamaica, and he has never. I think he's been to Jamaica twice, but he was born in this country. Anthony, this whole Windrush saga and the government plan to sort it out. It's not seeming to be happening, is it?
Yeah, I mean, this is really regrettable, and I think this just adds more insult to the people who have already suffered. I mean, at the end of the day, there should be no way that somebody like Ace, who has actually served this country, and then has to then go with a begging bowl asking for compensation for the fact that he's now has not been able to work because he's been taken away his right to do so, which meant that he's had to claim benefits. And then it's taken, I think, from the media report that I saw, it's been about 5 years now that he's been trying to actually get some sort of redress. So I think the whole management of this has been quite appalling, and it makes me sort of wonder: is there a hidden agenda by the government to either string this thing out as long as they can to minimise the amount they're going to pay, or if they simply, for want of a better word, they just don't have the heart to actually and the empathy and the compassion to deal with something straight away and immediate. I mean, these people should not have to wait months and months. They know what the issue is, and if the individuals themselves meet the criteria, there should be a set fee which they are allowed to receive. And I think that is what should happen. And I think it's a disgrace that it's taken so long and so many people have had to suffer trying to get their what's rightfully theirs.
Yeah, just to clarify, Ace is not the one who is with the teeth and was in the army. It is a Williams. It is a guy named Williams. That's the person. The Ace is the one who was served some time in prison briefly, and because of that, his mother is Jamaican, and unlike America, whereby once you're born there, you're automatically American citizen. In the UK, just because you're born here, you're not automatically a British subject just because you're born here. It depends on the status of your parents. But it points to the bigger picture, though, at the same time, that something is amiss. David, you do some work with the diaspora, and people have been talking about this and these meetings. Is it happening? Is there some breakthrough regarding this whole?
I'll just start by saying I'm angry. I'm not happy with the situation, particularly with Ace, and that's the story that I'm well aware of. And it's depressing. It doesn't make any sense when you read through the transition of what's going on. He's paying money to stay in this country, but at the same time he can't claim any taxes, can't claim any rights to any benefits if he fell foul of any particular issues. But there's a concern that he's at high risk. I don't get it. He's an actor. He has 3 kids. He looks after them. From what I can read in the press,
EastEnders.
Yeah. It doesn't. Nothing makes sense. If anything, his work is being cut because he's got access to be able to work in different parts of the world, but he can't go because he doesn't have a British passport. He doesn't have a Jamaican passport. He can't get out of the country to do the work. So he's being held here in a kind of a stateless position, but pays to try and stay here for 6 months to an end. This story is puzzling to me. I don't understand what the government is all about in terms of trying to. I don't get it. This and the thing here is, if you look into even further, this occurred when he was 19 when he went to prison. He was there for 3 years. He's now 30 odd. So this is now many years past his crime, and he actually takes time out, his time personally, to sort of try and curb other young kids in particularly the same scenario that he grew up with, to curb them out of the things that he got up to. So as you can see, I'm stumped. I'm lost for words. I'm not normally lost for words on this platform, but I just don't quite get it. And in regards to the diaspora, the wider diaspora, there's 2 points I want to make. The first thing is that this kind of thing, unfortunately, can help to give rise to people's distrust of government, and therefore elections. People may not choose to vote, but importantly, people may well be a bit worried about getting a vaccine, for example, because they're worried that if they are in a particular predicament where they don't have their papers in check, then the government can do something and send them on their way. I want to make it clear that that is not going to be the case. You are not tracked if you take the vaccine. If you choose to, I sound like I'm preaching for the vaccine, but what I'm trying to say here is the clarity here is that you will not be tracked. You will not be sent home. There are means and methods to be able to access the vaccination if you so want it, that don't lend themselves to you being kicked out or booted out of the country. So that's one thing I wanted to make clear. With regards to the position of, and I can't speak on behalf of the Jamaican diaspora because I'm not the chairperson. What I will say is, in regards to the meetings that I've been attending, this is a deplorable act. It's not something that I would support from a fair point of view. It doesn't make any sense. As you said earlier in the segment, in this particular discussion about Ace here, he wasn't born in Jamaica. He was born in the UK. He's lived here all his life. He's had 2 trips to Jamaica when he was younger. None of this makes any sense to me, especially given the manner of the man now.
Yeah, and I showed a picture there a while ago. And you know what he does very well? He's actually a genius. You know those movies with zombies and animated stuff? He actually create these things, and he's teaching people how to walk like with animals, like when you see these dinosaurs. And he's brilliant. And he goes into schools and he talks about it. And we met 2019 when he was talking about this thing, and he did some videos. And with the videos that he did, he sent it to me as well, and we're trying to do something. But fortunately, and that's the thing, it's just something on one person that pick it up in the news media, and Jamaicans are on top of it. Sorry, David. Yeah.
Well, sorry, that's the last point I wanted to make. Really, sometimes we can be really critical of the media and in its short form, but I think in this particular expose, I'm very much applaud the media for picking up the story. You could say they picked it up late, but I'm glad that they picked it up, and I'm glad that they're running with it. It's in the Independent. It's across all kind of broadsheets now. So I'm long may this story be in the press, because it really does help this chap to sort of try and fight off this particular problem that he finds himself in. And I don't think he should be in this particular problem. It shouldn't be. It should be a walk in the park for legal system to try and sort this out. He was found with the ability to stay with one particular judge, and then it was overruled. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm angered. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Sherika, there seems to be a clear need for some overall within the Home Secretary. Sherika, should you run for office and try to be the Home Secretary to sort of shed light into this whole thing?
Well, the thing is, as you were both speaking, Anthony and David, I was just thinking, even though it will bring a negative connotation to people not trusting the vaccines, etc. But I think it also exposes a need to familiarize yourself with your country of heritage, and to not necessarily connotate going back home as a negative thing. So I don't know, maybe I'm staring it away from the real issue, but that's really what my brain was doing when you guys were talking. I was just thinking, this shows you that there's a need to highlight more cultural and more, more awareness on the positive aspects of.
So what you're saying, Sherika, is that once somebody's tipped to be deported or whatever like that, they should somehow start to look at the options from a cultural perspective. I mean, this person is not Jamaican, you know what I mean?
Well, he is Jamaican, because
Okay.
if he was to walk around, he would identify himself as Jamaican. So now, all of a sudden, when you're told that, hey, maybe you do have to go to Jamaica since you're representing Jamaica so much, you think that's such a negative. But Don't listen to me. I have my very strong controversial
And
views.
we have to listen to you. You're here.
But that's just what, because I was born in Jamaica, and I have a British passport, and at any point if they said to me, pack your things and go, I don't feel it as such a negative, as long as I know that there are resources back home to facilitate the person I now am, which is an educated person, which is somebody who has seen different cultures. So when you guys were speaking on the matter, I was just thinking, well, I guess people wouldn't feel so fearful of going home if there were better resources back home, and if they could see themselves evolving and growing.
Yes.
Because Jamaica is an amazing island to even have your children and your wife and everybody to grow up on, if you know that these resources exist and you feel that way about the country. But like I said, that's just another view. It's taken away from the fragility of him being scared of leaving his family here. And I did look on his page, and I could see that he's from a multiracial family now. See, he's got, so it might be a bit different to say take up your family and your things and leave, because the family is multiracial. So it's a whole different viewpoint on the matter. But I do think that is outrageous that you're born here and then you're told go back to Jamaica, which that's what a lot of Black British men face, the identity issue, especially Afro-Caribbeans, because with Nigerians and different types of heritage, they get to know what it's about. With Afro-Caribbeans, it is a bit scarier to pick up their stuff and just go back and repatriate them back into the islands when they haven't even lived there.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. I'll pick up on a point from that. But Anthony, what's your take on that? What Sherika said, what David said, and this person, let's use Ace. Ace was born in this country, just been to Jamaica twice, has his children, went to prison for a bit, but service time, back into society, a good product of society now, rehabilitate himself, the right signals, but yet at the same time, they're trying to get him out.
Well, I think just in closing, I think as David has mentioned, and I think Sharika's point is an interesting one, and it's another viewpoint, which is always good to have a different side of the coin in terms of when you're listening to these debates. But I certainly think that it would be nice if the government had a fixed time limit to address people's concerns. That way, at least they would know where they stand, and I think it would also enable the government to expedite things when they realize actually this person's been on this list now for 9 months, the normal limit is 12 months, we need to do something, and if we don't meet the deadline, then by default they actually stay in the UK and they get their paperwork. So I think there needs to be a different sort of mentality and approach to this, because at the moment it's just not working, and the people who are being the main thing that for me is these are people's lives, their families, their livelihoods, and if they can't actually do any of those things to what's deemed as being normal, then it means, as far as I'm concerned, as David has mentioned, that they're living in a limbo, and that can't actually serve any purpose for the individual or the state. So I think clearly there needs to be something done quite quickly to address all of the people who are currently suffering through this particular problem.
And
sorry, please.
No, sorry, and it affects your human rights as well when you cannot live and work around your family and stuff like that. So I just wanted to.
Well, interesting you said human rights, because we close off because time is going now on this last one here. Same area, same subject area. Windrush victims win court fight over application fees for family. Guys, I've come to this country as well. I used to go to the Home Office. I came to this country in 1992, and I used to go to the Home Office every 2 years or so to renew my visa as a student. And I used to get up early in the morning, David and Anthony, 6 o'clock. And a taxi guy, a friend of we became good friends, used to take me there early in the morning. And I used to be like 5th or 6th in that queue, because I didn't believe in actually sending in my application, because I believed that it was a stereotypical thing on Jamaicans. So I like to go there and show my face. And even the same guy we normally met there, when I got married, we're still good friends. But it's a daunting experience, and the cost that I'm hearing now for these applications is crazy. In this case, a relative of a woman caught up in the Windrush scandal can apply for permission to live in Britain without paying thousands of pounds in fees, the High Court has ruled. Charging the family of Linda Mahar would be a colossal interference, Sherika, listen to this, in their human rights, the court said. The fees would cost more than £20,000. Ms. Margaret, 52, was unable to live in the UK until 2018 and says the government didn't correctly record her immigration status in the 1970s. Her case was similar to thousands of other Windrush victims. I believe one of the colossal terrible things in the UK, and it's something that I'm going to have to pick up and run with, the fees, guys. The fees are crazy. For persons who are legitimate in the country now, all they got to do is regularize themselves by moving from indefinite leave to get their passport and their citizenship. It's crazy fees. It's like it's trying to discourage you. Anthony, that's where the petition needs to go to. And I'll support that one.
Well, I think we all agree, Selbon, that these fees are to anybody are prohibitive, in terms of just being able to stay in the country when you're entitled to be here. And I think, as Sherika and David has already mentioned, it's something that the government needs to address very quickly, because livelihoods are at stake. And not only that, if people cannot live in limbo while the government takes 6, 12, 18, 24, 26 months to actually deal with their cases. It is against their human rights, and it is something that needs to be addressed very quickly.
Sherika, the last word on it.
Agreed with Anthony.
And David.
I'm just angry still.
Still angry. Yes. I mean, guys, I know the feeling, because, as I said, I'm a product of coming to this country and going through the process and paying fees. I remember one year. I mean, I could write a book about it. I remember one year. I think I went there a bit late or something like that. And when I was getting one of my thing, was my residential status or whatever like that. I think they got it late or something, and they wanted me to pay again. And I think I took them to task, really, and they sort of reneged on the whole thing. But I can imagine persons who do not have maybe the ability or the wordsmith to sort of deal with it, they keep pushing them back. And I know people who are in limbos, legitimate say, so it is something that needs to be addressed. So I feel it for those persons. Sorry, Sherika. Somebody say something? So I feel it for those guys and everyone. And so thank you guys for tonight. I think we wrap up. I'm giving 5-6 minutes for those who want to go and vote. They can run out and get the vote done.
Wait, I have some interesting figures for you guys, okay?
Okay, go for it.
So I like money and talking about figures and stuff like that. So this booklet here, I don't know, did you guys receive one?
Yeah.
Anthony knows. I'm sure Anthony wrote that book.
Did you read page 5? Oh, my dog chewed this. But did you read page 5?
Anthony wrote it. Tell us, Anthony, what it says.
What does it say, Sherika?
On page 5, it says that each candidate was given a chance to put a mini manifesto in this booklet, right? And 17 candidates chose to do so and paid £10,000 towards the booklet costs. Now,
they paid £10,000, or they contributed to the £10,000?
No, they paid £10,000 towards the booklet's cost. This is the amount required by law.
Yes.
So the contents of the mini manifestos are the sole legal responsibility of the candidates and their election agents, blah, blah, blah. But I just thought that was interesting. If you ever considered taking it seriously against Kilburn, have your 10,000 ready, start a GoFundMe.
Well, I got you guys can cover it. David and Anthony says he only vote for persons that he believes in. Anthony, you believe in me, don't you?
He believes in you. You run for president.
Well, they run for president. He said, yes, you run for president, Silver, because we don't have presidents here. Prime Minister.
You run for Prime Minister.
David, anyway, and the last word, David, for the week.
Try and stay positive, and I guess do all you can for Ace, because it's a big story, and I think we need to run with this story. I think in the end it'll prove fruitful for him. And I must say I don't condone, obviously, getting mixed up with crime, violence, that sort of thing. I think it was robbery in this case, but at the same time I also think people can change, and it was a very long time ago. So yeah, I'm glad it's a great news story, and I'm glad that it's being pushed by the press, and long may that continue.
Well, it's an opportunity for people to say to their children within the diaspora, like, look, open, honest conversations. Be careful what you do, because look at Ace. He was born here. He's my son, and it's a great opportunity for mothers to talk to their childrens, and fathers to talk to their children's coming up now, because a lot of British born children, because I went to school with them, really do think that they're better off than somebody who's an immigrant like myself, because they were born here. And it's really important for you to realize that, look, here is an example that you can be born here and you can have your rights revoked. So why don't you do well in school, continue on the right track, etc., etc. And as a product of somebody who was teased for being a migrant, for being an immigrant in school over here in the UK, I really think that this is an important poster bullet point lesson for those who were born here, to say, look,
I was,
here you
I
go.
was, I was called Yardi when I came and said if I had 10 baby mother and smoked ganja and everything.
Yeah, I would.
And they couldn't believe people couldn't believe that I didn't smoke ganja and I didn't have 10 baby mothers. As a matter of fact, I did no baby mothers or stuff like that. My first child was when I was married.
Shelly
And
feels sorry for you.
yeah, and this year is going to be 20 years of being married. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, guys, want to thank you so much for coming on.
All
And
the best for Ace.
yes, all the best for Ace. Anthony, have a good week.
Thank you, and you.
David, have a good one, and all the best to the service. And Sharika, you take care. And
Take care.
okay, let me just sign out here. Just thank you guys. Okay, you don't want it to end. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as Sharika says, she doesn't want it to end, but all good things got to go. For those on Instagram, I want to thank you so much for coming on YouTube as well. And as for Facebook, you can catch the link on Facebook as well. And thank you so much. Have a good week, and God bless you. And see you around on the other side.